Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to How Tuesdays at Lori's Country Cottage. Today, we're going to learn about fabric starch, sizing, stabilizer, and fabric treatments. All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about today is Mary Ellen's Best Press. So right on the bottle, it says a clear starch and sizing alternative. So what are starch and sizing? Starch is a vegetable product that adds stability to the fibers of your fabric. Basically, it gives it a little bit of crispness. What is sizing? Sizing is a product they add to the fabric that is either vegetable or petroleum based that also adds stability to the fibers, and some companies claim that their sizing pre-shrinks your fabric in case you're not a fabric washer. So Mary Ellen's Best Press comes in many sizes. We carry 3 at the store. It comes in several scents as well as unscented. I know a lot of our customers at Lori's Country Cottage like to mix their scent half and half with unscented for a more mild scent. So you can choose from different scents and different sizes. The small bottle comes with a trigger pump. Now the trigger pump works, but we find that it might be just a little bit blotchy. So we use the Mrs. Bobbins mist bottle. I find that it just has more control over the spray. So Mary Ellen's Best Press is advertised to add that stability to your fabric, to protect it from getting dirty. It also is advertised as a wrinkle releaser, and we're going to do a little test later to prove that out. So let me show you how it works. I've cut 10-inch squares, exactly the same size, because we're going to do a little experiment as we move on. This is my control square. I'm doing nothing to this square, and we'll measure the other ones compared to that later. This will be my best pressed 10-inch square. I'm going to move to the ironing surface and show you how to use it. So I'm simply going to put this on my ironing surface, give it a mist with my Mrs. Bobbins spray, give it a couple seconds to soak into the fabric. It says right on the directions to allow the liquid to get into the fibers so it can do its job. Now I'm going to press it with a dry iron. There's no use adding steam to this. I'm trying to dry it out. So my hot iron set to dry, and it's as easy as that. And I will just remind you again, we don't want to use spray starch on our pieces after they're cut, because there is that possibility and probability of manipulating the fibers. So here's my starched piece. It's got a really nice hand to it. I can feel it's a bit more stable. If I wanted it to be a bit more crisper, is that a word? If I wanted it to be more crisp, I could flip it over and give it another shot. And I'm going to do that, whoops, but spray it with the right thing, because I want to make sure I've applied enough for our little experiment later. So again, a couple seconds for it to soak in. So what my research showed me or told me is that the liquid from the product soaks into the fibers and protects it. And when the dirt comes along, it doesn't actually get into the fibers, it sits in the space in between, so it's easier to wash out. Having said that, Best Press will wash out when you put it through your washing machine. So it isn't permanent, it's a stabilizer and a starch. If you like to pre-wash your fabric, you notice that you remove all the sizing from your fabric when you pre-wash. Using Mary Ellen's Best Press or spray starch, will just add that crispness back in. There's Mary Ellen's Best Press. We'll move on to the Acorn fabric treatment next, and I'll show you how that works. So Acorn precision piecing products include the Easy Press mist bottle and their fabric treatment. So I'm going to treat this the same way I did the Mary Ellen's Best Press. So they have a nice mist bottle that comes with it too. It's a little bit lighter mist, I think, than the other bottle. I'm going to give it a couple seconds to soak in. So this liquid in this bottle is the same liquid that you see at Lori's Country Cottage in our fabric folding pen. And I often refer to that as a fabric relaxer. So you've probably seen demos where we have sewn a seam, put the fabric folding pen along that seam, given it another press, and it just lies so much flatter. My favorite place to use it is on permanent creases in my fabric. Something else the people at Acorn tell us about their fabric treatment is that it also prevents dirt from sticking, but it's supposed to help with fraying. I'm going to flip it over, give it another treatment, just like the Mary Ellen's Best Press. And something that was very clear in the demo that I watched and the research that I looked at is that they absolutely tout that this will shrink your fabric. So if you are not a pre-washer and you are worried about your fibers shrinking at different rates in your fabrics in your quilt, if you treat them all with the Acorn fabric treatment, it is supposed to remove that sizing from it and shrink your fabric for you without the pre-washing. Again, I'm going to press it with a nice hot iron, no steam because I'm trying to dry it out. And we'll see how this compares to the Mary Ellen's Best Press. Both of these products also claim no flaking, no dirt on your iron. I use Mary Ellen's Best Press all the time, and I don't experience any flaking. I'm just going to flip that over. I see a white spot there. All right, that's the Acorn fabric treatment. That square is done. Let me tell you about one more product. The final product I want to show you today is Terra Magic. Terra Magic is a fabric stabilizer. I was introduced to Terra Magic when I did the Dynamic Dresden demo, and it was suggested to use that for the foundation of the Dresdens. And I didn't have that opportunity. I used lots of Best Press, but she talked about making your fabric paper-like. So I want you to look at this. This has been treated with Terra Magic, and it is very crisp. It's not loosey-goosey like that. It does actually feel paper-like. So how Terra Magic works is I actually put this in a bowl, I sprayed it with the Terra Magic and made sure it was soaked into the fibers. They're very clear to make sure you get all the fibers wet. Then I hung it to dry. They suggest that you press it when it's still damp. So don't wait till it's totally dry. If it's totally dried, you just mist it with some water to moisten it up a bit and then give it a press. So this piece of fabric I moistened all the way through with Terra Magic. I allowed it to dry completely. Then I sprayed it with another layer of Terra Magic. I allowed it to almost dry, and then I pressed it with my iron. And this is what I got. This is really neat. When I did some more research on the internet, people use this a lot for embroidery. It stabilizes your fabrics while you're embroidering, and especially for stretchy fabrics. t-shirts, and t-shirt quilts. This is also used for crafts. Several years ago, there was a craft where you cut flower petals and you molded them with the Terra Magic, and then when you allowed them to dry, they stayed in that shape. When I wash this, the Terra Magic comes out and my fabric returns to its regular state. Let's move on to a little experiment. I've taken a wad of fabric and tied it up with an elastic band, and it's been like this for over 24 hours. And I thought we would test Mary Ellen's Best Press and the Acorn solution. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces, so exactly the same fabric. This has not been pre-washed. So 1 chunk, that'll be Mary Ellen's Best Press, and the second chunk will be the Acorn fabric solution. All right, so Mary Ellen's has the white strip. So here comes my Best Press. I'll be generous to give it the best chance possible. Give it a chance to soak in. Here's my piece for the Acorn fabric solution. Again, a little lighter mist, so I'll let it soak in. And actually, I'm pretty impressed at how this looks already. The wrinkles seem to have kind of come out on their own. Let's give them a press and see how that looks. Here are my 2 pieces. Here's Mary Ellen's Best Press. Here's the Acorn fabric treatment. Here's our original. Look already how those wrinkles have come out. I wasn't expecting that. It's a great surprise. Let's put the iron on and see what happens. The fabric is slightly damp yet. You can see the steam coming up. My iron is hot, and again, the steam is off. Sure smells nice. All right, and off to the Acorn. Same thing, dry hot iron. While I'm pressing, take a look at the fraying. So I see some fraying on. Now I did have a frayed piece to start with. Maybe that's an unfair comparison. We'll check on our other squares. All right, one more little press on here. And you'll have to take my word for it. I'll compare the hand of the fabric, like what it feels like, and let you know. All right, Mary Ellen's Best Press. Not a wrinkle, not a 1. Acorn, same thing, not a wrinkle. Now, as for hand, that's got a nice crispness to it. Like, I would love to work and cut with that fabric. I think my cutting would be more accurate. This has a bit more structure to it. I gotta tell you, it does. Hey, let's do another experiment. The Acorn fabric solution definitely has more body. Let's see what a second pressing does. Totally flat. And same thing. So what's my consensus? They both work. This, I would suggest, is a little bit lighter. This, a bit more body, a bit more structure. Let's check out our 10-inch squares and see what happened there. Okay, here I am back with our 10-inch squares. So remember our control square, we've done nothing with it, just regular fabric. This is our Mary Ellen's Best Press, and this is our Acorn fabric treatment. Started with a 10-inch square, so exactly 10 inches. Mary Ellen's Best Press, front and back, exactly 10 inches. And with the Acorn fabric solution, maybe a couple threads below 10 inches, but not what I was expecting to see. Because when I watched the demo, they clearly stated that it would shrink it. Now, if I had a 44-inch strip of fabric and I sprayed the whole thing, maybe it would shorten it by a half an inch, maybe even an inch. I don't know, but I thought it would be a fun experiment. Thanks for joining me for How Tuesdays, and I hope you learned some things about spray starch, stabilizers, and sizing. I think what I took out from today's video is that they both certainly work as a fabric relaxer and a wrinkle releaser. They both added crispness and structure to my fabric. I found the Acorn fabric solution to be give the fabric a bit more hand, a bit more structure, but I like them both. So you have many options when choosing spray starch and sizing for your fabric. Thanks for joining me for today.